Hello everyone. Welcome to this edition of Shergroup on the sofa. I hope wherever you are today, you're in a good place and the sun is shining. And as we always do, I've got my lovely guest Charlotte here today. But as we always do, we just give a shout out to our number one Shergroup fan, which is Ross Saunders in North Walsham, Norfolk today, not too far from Charlotte today. So, hey Ross.
Very close.
Very close. There you go.
Yeah.
Now I've known Charlotte for how long have we known each other? About 4 years, something like that.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. So Charlotte's going to tell you about her role and her business, Taylor Investigations. Fascinating job that you do. And provides a great service to Shergroup and our community in and around our investigations piece. So really look forward to talking to you about that today. So, okay, well, let's go back. I know you told me this story before, but just so that we can just sort of go over it again. So when and how did you start your business?
So I started my business in 2016. Feels like such a long time ago. You can see grey hairs.
Great hairs.
So 2016. So I was in the police. I left the police force in back end of 2015, and then decided I'm young enough. I'm going to do something completely different, which isn't too different. We're just on a different side of the coin, I suppose now. And then I thought I'm going to set up a business. So I had £150, a laptop, and a sofa. And I managed to get a website done, a logo, and some business cards. And yeah, I suppose the rest is history, as they say. That's how I started in 2016. So yeah.
Yes, I remember when I first met you, because we had a coffee at the coffee shop at Heatherset, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Far from Norwich. And I remember you coming, just so determined and so passionate about your subject, which was great to see that.
Yeah.
So just tell everybody what Taylor Investigations does.
Yeah, so we provide investigation services right across the board. So we deal with predominantly all civil matters. We do the odd criminal inquiries, if there's any, for criminal defence solicitors for any cases that are proceeding through to court. But generally, 90% of our work is civil. So we cover everything from process serving right through to person tracing, asset tracing, digital forensics, surveillance, employment investigations. We also do a lot of beneficiary tracing and family tree research, background investigations. There's not much we don't sort of turn our hand to, really. When anything sort of investigations, or if anybody needs an answer to something, then that's when we step in and we can help.
Yeah, I thought that was great then, and I think it's great now. So what is your favourite type of sleuth case?
I've got a few, to be honest. I love my passion. A lot of what I like to do is and get involved is the family history research, and that's simply just because I really enjoy it. And I only developed it really as a service within the business when I realised that, particularly private client solicitors, they need somebody who can identify and locate beneficiaries for cases. So that was when I sort of knew that, I thought, I can develop that into a service within the business and bring that in. I think ultimately tracing people as well is always a good one, because 9 times out of 10 we can find them, and it's a real moment of aha, we've got them, we found them. And it can be for so many different reasons. It can be for debtors, but it can also be, like I say, beneficiaries or adoption cases. So it's really, really varied. But I'd probably say they're my 2 favourite.
So when you look at that, then you've got genealogy on one side and investigations to find somebody that needs to be found, maybe because of a court case or a claim in the court. Both of which are very valid. I mean, let's take the investigation for a claim. Can you just outline the sort of steps that you take? Because, you know, we can find a lot of people on the internet now, can't we?
Yeah.
Facebook, LinkedIn, you know, all these channels are open to us to find people. What do you do that goes that bit deeper to find people?
So when we have a client who comes to us because they need to locate somebody, and if it's like you say for a claim, we have access to various systems, so we can have a look and say, right, okay, there's been markers to indicate this individual has been at this address, for example, and that can be for a number of reasons. So the data sets that get pulled across can be from something as really simple as having a catalogue registered at that address, or, you know, we can go deeper and we can say, right, well, they've applied for some form of credit at that address, and we can tell you what date that was. So we have access to a lot of systems and databases that obviously the public don't.
Yeah.
But a lot of it as well is going out, it's getting out there. You know, when we're dealing with quite a difficult person who is trying their utmost to not be found.
Yes.
Good old-fashioned door knocking, you know, getting a boots on the ground is what we call it, and going out and speaking to people. Naturally, as human beings, we are inquisitive and curious, but we also want to help. We have a need and a want to help. So speaking to people, they will tell you, you know, and they will say, oh no, I last saw my neighbour probably 3 weeks ago, but I think they're only just on holiday. That's enough for us to then think, right, okay, so if they're away, let's leave it a week or so, and then let's go back and make some further inquiries. So it's quite a mix. It's a mix of the two. So yeah.
I know, in terms of the databases that people don't normally have access to, I mean, I'm sure you want to, you know, if it wasn't already apparent, it's very apparent to me, but I mean, GDPR and data privacy is a big thing. I mean, I know you're totally, you know, whiter than white, but I mean, anybody watching this and thinking, how does she do that? I mean, it's all, you know, on the right side of the legislation, right?
Yeah, so everything that we do is GDPR compliant. We do data protection impact assessments on every investigation, even if it is just a very small, quick desktop trace on using our database systems. Everything has a data protection impact assessment done. If we're doing surveillance, for example, we do a RIPA assessment to make sure that everything that we do is lawful and it's justified. There's always a reason and a justifiable reason for everything that we do. So a lot of it is vetting our clients in a way and making sure that the job we're doing is for a lawful and legitimate reason. And if we have any concerns, we don't take the job. So we won't do it.
No. But sometimes your business is like my business. It can swim in what I call murky waters, where people will try and leverage what we do to get information in a dubious way. So we really have to have our guard up, don't we, about people coming into our business?
We do. We do. And I think it's, you know, we do have to be extremely careful of that. And I suppose on the other side is, and you would know this as well, that when we're tracing debtors, for example, if there's a claim, you know, a lot of people, we do take satisfaction when we found that person, but sort of people say, oh, well, you know, they might be going through a difficult situation. And of course, that might be the case. And we always deal with them professionally and with respect. But we also have to be mindful, our client is on the other side who have lost money. And, you know, they might be owed something that they need to get back. So yeah, it's always just really understanding why the client has come to us and making sure that it is lawful and it's a legitimate reason. And if it is, we do our absolute utmost for that client to make sure that, you know, the information we provide, they can then continue with their case. We seem to, a lot of our clients would come to us because they're at a brick road or brick wall, sorry. They don't know where to go and they don't know how they can progress it further. And they just need that bit of information to continue with it.
Yes. No, I see you as very much solving difficult parts of a puzzle, you know, for people that have run out of options, really. And maybe they are owed a sum of money, or maybe they do need to enforce some kind of court order. In which case it's not our client or you that's making the decision, it's the court saying this has got to be done, and therefore all we're doing is facilitating the court's order, which is really, so no need to judge anyone. Don't judge the judge.
Yeah, exactly.
What we're doing, it's you know, because we're just agents of the system, really, in terms of what we're trying to do. And I think it's so important that we have access to folk like you. I mean, you did a case for us recently, didn't you, where we got put off the scent by the judgment debtor, a case up in Yorkshire, and you found them trading around the corner, you know, ton of goods, you know, but they'd been quite crafty.
Yeah, there was quite a few assets on site for that one.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. So, you know, if we hadn't, you know, we had to sort of use you to basically locate their new address. And you found them on Facebook, didn't you? Making garden sheds or garden pods.
That's it. Yeah. They were selling on Facebook. So so we used one of our operatives, and we said, can we come and have a look? You know, can we see it? And yeah, they were more than happy, because in their eyes, they think they're getting a sale.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was very elegantly done. I mean, I chuckled when I saw the report from you. You know, sort of, you know, we inquired as a customer on Facebook, and they wanted to see us straight away and led us straight to where they had all their kit and boodle. So that was a great outcome. And we were able to shift that job and sell it at auction. So that was good.
Yeah.
So that was one of my favourite cases. What about one of your favourite cases that still sort of sticks out to you as a huge success?
There's a couple. I'd probably say one of the first ever cases that I took was a person trace, and that was for a gentleman in France wanting to trace somebody he went to school with in I think it was late 40s, early 50s.
Right.
Yeah, they went to a drama and art school, and he didn't know anything really. He knew that she'd got married, but didn't really know much. Just sort of said, I know her first name, not really sure what her surname could be, but he knew the person that she potentially married used to work either for the BBC or ITV, that was it was one of those cases when I thought, oh, talk about throwing me in the deep end, you know, first job. Can I really deal with this? But I did manage to locate her. Unfortunately, she had passed away, but I managed to put the client and her husband, who was still alive at the time, put those in contact with each other, and they were able to share memories and stories. But it was one thing the client said to me at the time, said, you know, don't ever waste time. If you love somebody, tell them. If you've got a problem with somebody, tell them and deal with it and move on. And it was just, it's something that's always really sort of stuck with me, and that every job we do going forward, we always make sure we're doing it in a timely manner, because we want to make sure that the client gets those results as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was one, like I say, first ever case, and it was just one of those cases that's always stuck with us, and it's a real ethos in the business now.
Yeah, that's great. Now, what about the genealogy? I mean, that's the other side of the coin. I mean, I had a grandfather that came from Cork in Ireland. And the more people I meet, I realise that more and more of us have got some connection to Ireland somewhere in our heritage. I mean, can you trace people across the world, Ireland? You know, how would you go about it?
Particularly when sort of Brexit was coming in, we were getting quite a few inquiries and clients coming to us to say, I'd like to locate and identify birth certificates and death certificates of my grandparents or my great-grandparents to prove that I can then apply for dual nationality. And we had this one, and he said, we've got the death record of my grandfather, who was born in Ireland, but we've got no other information. We can't find a birth certificate, but we need that to prove the dual nationality status. So I said, okay, that's fine, leave it with us. So we were working on it for ages. And I mean, every crossroad we came to, it was just seemed to be, no, it's not there. No, that's not it. And by chance, we came across a baptism record for him. And I was like, okay, so we've got a baptism record. So we know he was here. He would have been born very, like, in this town or very, very close to.
Yeah.
And it transpired that it was at the time, it was in 1924, I believe it was, if I get my, or 1921, the IRA, it was a really IRA stronghold. And when he was born, he never got registered.
Right.
So he had to then take his baptism record up to Dublin and registered him. So we registered him in 2019 for a gentleman who was born in 1921.
Wow.
That was the first time he became a person, according to their records. So they produced a birth certificate and everything there and then. And with that, we were then able to then pull all of the other information together. And so then we did a full family tree for our client and his family. And he had family all over, in New York, in Canada, in Australia, but he also had cousins in Birmingham that he didn't know.
Wow.
He did not even know he had cousins in Birmingham. So, you know, a 3-hour drive away, and he's got a whole new family he didn't know about. So yeah,
That's amazing.
that was
I mean,
great.
a lot of people would take, perhaps more so now after the pandemic, they take a lot of comfort from that, knowing their roots,
Yeah.
more about their roots, and
Mhm.
and also finding long lost family.
Yeah.
You know, because of what we've all been through.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, and a lot of my listeners, you know, are based in Norfolk. And, I come from Norwich, so if you want your genealogy traced, then Charlotte's the girl. You're on Rose Lane now, right?
Yes, yeah, Rose Lane, yeah.
Okay.
So right in the city centre now.
Yeah, I know where that is exactly. I won't say why I know, but I do know. Okay, so now that's a great insight into what you do and how you can help people. So thank you for that. So Taylor Investigations, I saw the launch of your new offices on Rose Lane, which look fantastic. You've got a turquoise vibe going on, right? That's your kind of. Does that come from somewhere in particular, or is that just?
No, it doesn't actually. I think when I set up the business, most investigation companies go down the route of blue.
Yeah.
So they want to go with blue and a real sort of navy blue. And I think, you know, around at that time, a lot of solicitors, particularly with their branding, were navy blue, and it was that professional services feel. And I just didn't want to be blue. So I thought, no, I'm going to go for a different color. And then all of the colors that I looked at, and I thought, feel like I'm heading back towards blue. And I love the color, like teal and turquoise and those aqua colors.
Yes.
And I just, for me, it was I love the color, so I'm going to go for it.
Oh, good.
That was in 2016, and now it's really interesting that color has really come back round. Yeah. So I'd say now more and more professional services are going down the route of that color.
And what do you call that color? Do you call it teal or turquoise? What do you prefer?
It's teal, I would say. Teal. Yeah.
Okay, teal. All right. Yeah. So yeah. So and of course you I think it's right in saying you married your marketing guru. So you've got you've got on-site marketing in Rick. So that's nice. Yeah. So how do you envisage the growth of your business?
For us, it's just continued growth. So we have grown massively in the last week. We took on another member of staff, and we just keep growing. So I really want to sort of diversify the business. So in the last week as well, we've just started offering legal aid services. So we now provide legal aid inquiries and process serving to people who need to use and access the legal aid system, and that might be through domestic violence, or it might just be their, you know, low income household, for example. Primarily it is sort of domestic violence related, but so yeah, so we've now set up an entire department to really support the legal aid system so that we can provide process serving, any inquiries that are needed, because there is a very small, and I mean I could probably count on one hand, investigators across the country who actually do legal aid. There is nobody in Norfolk, and now we are the only ones. So we are growing with different departments within us, I would say. Our family research and bankruptcy searches and everything that private clients solicitor needs, we have developed at the moment, in the process of developing and setting up a new department for that. hence new members of staff. So yeah, we just want to continue growing, and I think because we do offer such a lot, really identify and maybe sort of separate out slightly our services, so that we know that when a client comes in, we know exactly who needs to deal with them and that they're getting the proper attention rather than it all being mixed into one. So
yeah, no, I think that's well, that's very innovative. I mean, giving access to the legal system to legal aid for investigations, as you say, it's a small number of people. I mean, I know that you service Norfolk, but I mean, you work nationally, don't you? You go beyond the UK, don't you, in terms of some of the services you offer?
yeah, that aids to the bags under the eyes, that does. Because yeah, so we have clients all over the world, so it's yeah, managing time zones a lot of the time and working out who's awake when. And so yeah, I was saying earlier, I've got a like a world clock on my laptop now, so I can see what time it is all around the world. But yeah, we have clients all over the world, but we also investigate matters overseas. So if we have a client in the UK, for example, it might be a debtor and they're overseas and they want to determine, you know, what's their asset portfolio, do they have sufficient that's going to be worth their while in terms of pursuing that claim. That's when we can step in and we can investigate their assets overseas as well as here in the UK. So
yeah, and you have a network of investigators across the world and process servers, don't you, across the world that can do that?
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're you know, I often say in terms of Shergroup itself that all roads lead to London. In London,
Yeah.
you know, and the UK. I know for those of you that are outside of London, you may not like that, but in terms of the planet, you know, London and the UK is such a hub. There's so many people outside of our country from overseas, and that's why services that you offer and I offer don't need to be limited to just the UK. So I think that's very exciting for you. But I think the legal aid access to justice is fantastic because who else is going to do that, right?
And that's the thing, you know, there was a gentleman in Norfolk who used to do a lot of process serving for legal aid, and he came to me and sort of said, you know, I'm retiring and nobody out there's doing it. And for me, it's something that I feel very strongly about, because everybody is entitled and everybody should be able to access some form of legal service should they need it. And that's the bottom line for us. So yeah, I think within a day, set up a whole process on how we can deal with it, set the department up, and yeah, so everything is all in place, ready to go. And that same day we had our first legal aid job come through. So yeah, it is needed still.
Yeah, very good. Now, again, your industry, I know you're just such a professional person, and the way that you run your business is hugely professional. What message do you want to get out to anyone listening to this, or just generally about the private investigation industry? What do you want to say about that in terms of how you present yourself?
I think for us and our business in particular, we are an unregulated industry, you know, so there is currently no licensing in place. You might, you know, if you're from the overseas anywhere, like in America, for example, you have to be licensed to be an investigator. There's nothing like that in place here in the UK, which is worrying. But there are steps being taken now. Myself, I'm a member of the Association of British Investigators. I'm on the governing council for them, really trying to push at the moment for a form of licensing. And at the moment that is looking, they're in the process of developing a code of conduct with the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office.
Yeah.
So I think the main message for me to get out is that if anybody is in a position where they need to use a private investigator or a process server, they don't have to use us. They can go onto the Association of British Investigators website and find all of the members and those who are members of the association, so that they know that they are following a code of conduct, they are going to be lawful and they are professional. That is my biggest thing, is really educating everybody on that fact that making sure you use the right investigator is key.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I just think that, like you, I mean, I've been around this industry for a few years, and
Mm.
you are definitely the most proactive and modern investigator I've come across in my travels, which
Yeah,
makes it easy to work with you and easy to give instructions on what's
yeah.
needed and then get the feedback. So I know being proactive is great, and as you
And I
say, doing it lawfully.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the office that we've got on Rose Lane. We have a big sort of shop front. We're very much in the public eye because the reason behind it, yes, okay, bit of a marketing ploy, but it is a very much hiding in plain sight because I think when people think of private investigator, they think sleuthing around, a bit dodgy, sort of not the best image. And for me, I really want to get the message across that people can walk in our office any day. If they've got a question and think, actually, I've got something I need help with, come into the office and we will sit and we'll talk to you and we'll give you as much advice as we possibly can. And that might be that we can't do anything, that they might need to speak to a solicitor, or they might need to speak to High Court enforcement, or they might need some HR advice, for example. But at least we can point them in the right direction to say,
Sure.
this is who you need, and this is who can help you. We had a gentleman come in the other day who lost his passport in Norwich. Has got nowhere, his bag was stolen and the passport's gone. He's reported everything to the police, and he just popped his head in and he said, look, I don't want a full investigation into it. He said, oh, there wasn't really a huge amount in there, but obviously my passport was. He said, but can I just give you my details and let you know the details of the passport, so that if by any chance somebody picks it up, or if you see it or somebody drops it off, you can then contact me. And I said, yeah, of course we can. And it is things like that, just being that person who can offer that advice when it's
Yeah,
needed.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Oh well, if you're in the city and you're walking, you parked your car somewhere near the castle, and
yeah.
you're trying to find somebody, or you've got a long lost relative, or something more businesslike,
Mm,
then you can find Charlotte's offices on Rose Lane. So
yeah.
I think that's a great idea of just being there as a
Yeah.
resource.
Yeah.
Um, and what's some of the best feedback you've had about Taylor investigations?
The best. I mean, to be fair, we do get some really, really good feedback. So I am extremely appreciative to all of our staff and our clients. But to be honest, I think again, it's probably the emotional feedback that we get. That's always lovely, and I've cried with our clients. I have
Oh,
cried with them some of the jobs, and I'm like, oh, we found them, and yeah. So
yeah, that
I
must
have.
be very satisfying.
Yeah, definitely it is. But it's even things when, we've particularly commercial investigations, for example, for employment matters or breaches of contract, to know that our evidence resolves that issue that they've got. I know firsthand how hard it is running a business. So I know that it doesn't matter the size of that business, whether they are a small sole trader or whether they are a huge company with hundreds of employees. If you've got a problem in your business, it's a real pain point, and it's something that's really, really difficult to often manage and navigate, and knowing what the right thing to do is. So when we get feedback from commercial clients to say, you've helped me sleep at night, that in itself that's why I do what I do and why I started the business. So
Yes, well, again, Shergroup is totally in tune with that in terms of, being a business owner and understanding the difficulty of growing a business. And
yeah.
then, somebody in the business is doing something that they shouldn't be.
Mm,
That is one of the biggest kind of problems to overcome, because how do you tackle that? And
yeah.
evidence is what you
Mm,
need. And
exactly. Yeah.
that's what you guys provide, isn't it? The
Yeah.
evidence
Yeah.
you know, to prove that there's been something in breach
Mm,
of contract,
yeah.
or worse. Hopefully not worse. But
Mm,
again, if you're listening to this and you're a business owner and you're sitting there thinking, well, I think I've got somebody, that's doing something they shouldn't,
mm,
um, then again, it's worth talking to us or to Charlotte just to try and decide how we can tackle that, so you can get some sleep. But I can imagine finding a long lost relative or a long lost friend is hugely satisfying. So how do you market your private investigation business?
Well, as you say, I married my marketing guru.
You did. What a cool move. A lovely guy too.
Yeah, that's business 101 there.
Yeah.
Marketing is a really, really interesting one because again, so me and my husband often joke. He refers to me as accidentally brilliant, because I genuinely have no idea. I have absolutely no idea when it comes to marketing and I suppose putting the business out there. I'm not, particularly if I go networking, for example, I'll speak to the people who I already know. I'll stick with what I know. I'll make sure I know where the exit is. Really, really awkward.
Now, come on, Charlotte. You're an expert marketer. You're a member of your BNI president, aren't you?
Yes, I'm BNI president now. Yeah, no, I am. Honestly, when I walk into a room networking, I'm so nervous.
I know,
so nervous.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, for me, do you know my rule of thumb is talk to people. And that is how we market the business. That's, my husband does a lot of our marketing materials and puts all of our leaflets and our merchandise together that we send out to people. And there's real thought and process and stats behind that. For me, it is talking to people and it's relationships. What we do, people have to trust us. Yes. So they have to trust.
Yes.
They can feel comfortable talking to us about whatever their situation is. Yes. And trust that we're going to do everything we can for them. Now, the only way I can manage and I can be put in front of the right people is to have relationships with people. So it is simply talking to people, building relationships and going to networking events like BNI and being the person who stands there and says, I can help, and whenever you're ready, I'm here. And honestly, that is how I built the business. From when I first started it 6 years ago, it was just networking and talking to people, even though I hate it and I'm so nervous.
It never shows.
Yeah,
it never ever shows at all. Yeah. As you say, you've got Rick there now to do all the legwork in terms of the marketing materials, which
exactly. Yeah. Now it's more formulated and there's reasons and it's driven and. Yeah, so I'm not just winging it now.
No. Well, you grow into that, don't you? As you get more comfortable and you've got through those first sort of formative years.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're now 6 years into running your own business. What advice would you give people listening to this who want to start up their own business today? What would you say?
I would say my biggest piece of advice would be to just keep going, I would say. And it's as cliche as it sounds, there are times when you are working long days and, you might have a bad day, nothing's going right. And you just have to keep going because it will come good. If you put the work in, keep going with it. And it will come round. That's absolutely my biggest piece of advice. So,
Yes, and I think the other thing that shines through with you, which I mean, I meet a lot of people in my travels, but the one thing that shone through for me with you is that your passion for what you do. So I think that's something else that if you've got a passion for it, and I think the other thing, just listening to you today, that you want to do some good with, and actually 2 or 3 people have crossed my path this week and they all have that attribute. They do their business and they're running their business, but they want to do some good with it, helping people. And I think you've got that in you in spades. I think
you have to, like you say, you have to have it, because if not, what are you doing it for?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you doing it for? And I think for me, I don't ever have that Monday morning dread.
No.
I don't ever have that, oh, I've got to go to work tomorrow, or oh, I've got to go into the office. And I never have that. Even when I have done a 14-hour day, it doesn't feel like I've been working for 14 hours. So I think once you find that, it does make it much, much easier.
Yes, yeah, I can totally relate to that. I've got two real children, Alice and Harry, and Shergroup.
Yeah.
Funny name, but doesn't do with the other two. But
It's still a child.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, move over, Shergroup. We want her back. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I get it. You know, when you're into something,
Yeah.
and let's hope that will continue for you. I know it will, and you're just going to get more and more successful. So
Yeah.
I think it's really nice that you're in Norwich and you're growing it from Norwich.
Yeah.
That's Norwich is not your hometown, is it?
Well, no. So originally I was born in Kent,
That's
and I lived there for till I was 11, and then we
yeah,
moved to Norfolk.
yeah.
So I lived just outside of Norfolk. Then I went to Sheffield, and I did my degree in criminology in Sheffield, and I stayed in because I was in the police there, and then I came back to Norfolk. So
Yeah, I knew there was a Yorkshire connection somewhere, but I think
yeah,
it's very cool that you've opened this business in Norwich. So yeah, that's fantastic. So Charlotte, thank you so much for giving us an insight into Taylor Investigations today. You've got a website, obviously, at taylorinvestigations.co.uk, and you're also on Facebook as Taylor
yeah,
Investigations, and Insta, which is very cool,
yeah.
and Twitter. Have you got a TikTok account yet?
No, don't push it.
Can't speak about that one. And
Yeah,
obviously you've got a LinkedIn presence as well, which
yeah,
I'm sure is the right channel for a good
yeah,
channel for you.
yeah.
So, and for everyone else, well, thank you, Charlotte. That's
You're
a great
welcome.
insight. For everyone else, thank you very much. This is Shergroup.com is our website, and like Charlotte, we've embraced all the channels, including somehow TikTok. I really don't know how we
Blimey.
got on TikTok, but we have got a TikTok channel thanks to our web guy.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is we'll put all of your contact uh, links in the show notes so that people can find you, and you'll be on YouTube as well. So I wish you every success. I'm glad that we met. You were good enough
Yeah.
to introduce me to some great people. Just say hello to Matt Howard.
Yeah.
And,
Oh,
and
we need
Denise.
pancakes soon as well. We need
Yeah.
pancakes soon. Yeah.
But the guys at Price Bailey, you introduced me to them,
Yeah.
and so we know a lot of people in BNI Norfolk as well. So hello to all of you guys as well. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Charlotte, and wishing you all the best. And thanks for everything you do for Shergroup. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Speak to you soon.
All right. Bye bye, everyone.